Yeah, I'm ready. Everybody ready to go?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
Afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, everybody. Well, that still wasn't very good, was it, really? Were you all asleep? Okay, thank you all. Pardon?
Most of us.
Well, wait for it. I've got some water here, so I'll throw it on. There we go. Welcome to the panel discussion this afternoon. Thank you all for coming. The idea of you coming to the panel is for you to learn a little bit more about this side of the industry. Maybe it's an area that some people have thought about going into, maybe it's not. So the panel are going to introduce themselves and explain their role within housekeeping and how they got into housekeeping, I believe, yeah?
Yes.
And then they will give you, there'll be a session at the end where you can ask questions. But so for the majority of it, they're going to, Christoph in the middle is going to speak to the panel about housekeeping. Okay? Any questions before we start? Okay, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Amanda. A very good afternoon. It's very nice to be here. I think the panel is very excited to have a full room in front of us. So we have a lot to tell, but we only have 45 minutes. So we are going to make sure that we get a lot of information in your heads. What we are going to do first is we are going to go through and each panel member will introduce themselves and give an overview of their career in housekeeping. So, Angela, if we start with you.
Certainly. Good afternoon, everybody. I started in housekeeping way back in 1971, when you weren't around. I started at the Queen's at Leeds as an assistant housekeeper. I was there 3 years, and in the final year, I was made deputy head housekeeper. So I was responsible for a 200-bedroomed hotel when the head housekeeper wasn't there. I then asked for a transfer because it was British Transport Hotels. I then asked for a transfer down to London, and I was informed I was going up to Gleneagles in Scotland, so it was a bit kind of drastic, but it was beautiful. I did the season up there as deputy housekeeper, and then I was made head housekeeper at the Welcome Hotel in Stratford-upon-Avon. And at the time, at 23, I was the youngest head housekeeper in the company. I was at the Welcome for 4 years, and then I was looking for other jobs in housekeeping, and there weren't any around at the time. So something came up at the local college, and I went into lecturing. But at the time, I had something like 4 days of teaching accommodation operations, or I think it was called housekeeping then. And it was fantastic. I think in the first week I gave one girl a blister because I was giving so many notes. But after that, it soon changed. And I've been at the college now 36 years, full-time up until 2009, and gradually worked my way up the ladder to Director of Faculty at 10 areas. And then in 2009 I became a part-time lecturer and assessor. So I've kind of gone back down to my roots. I am so enthusiastic about housekeeping, it's just not true. Okay, but that's me.
Do you go next, John?
Yes, my name is Jean Roberts. I started off at Buxton High Peak Training College, and I wanted to be a chef, so I went there with all the intentions of being a chef. When I left, I got all my qualifications, and I decided to be a housekeeper. Just changed. But I started off as lowly as you could possibly get, a trainee junior assistant housekeeper, and I got all my housekeeping and all the qualifications. But from there, I absolutely loved it, and it gives you an insight in a beautiful 4-star hotel. It was absolutely lovely. And then from there, I went with British Transport Hotels many years ago, same as Angela. I went to Turnberry Hotel, which is a golfing hotel. I don't know if anybody knows about golfing hotels, but a beautiful 5-star hotel, absolutely lovely. And then I went up to Gleneagles to help Gleneagles out. And then I went back down to another hotel in Nottingham, and then I got married. And before that, I actually was the youngest head housekeeper. I worked for Trust House 40, and I opened the post house at Gatwick which was an amazing, I was 21, which was an amazing accomplishment. It was just amazing. And it's quite a long time ago, so I forget these things. So I got married and left the industry. Then I came back into the industry, and I went back to the hotel that I was a trainee junior assistant as an exec housekeeper. And what we did there, we had an 8th floor where all the staff used to live on the 8th floor in this beautiful hotel. Of course, things change when people don't live in hotels anymore, the staff. So we had to change the 8th floor into exec suites, and we changed it all around. And Barbara Taylor Bradford, who's a Yorkshire lady, but she's an American, she lives in America now, and she's an author, and she came back to open the hotel up. So that was wonderful for me to be a trainee junior assistant housekeeper and to go back to overview a hotel as an exec housekeeper of these beautiful, beautiful suites. It was lovely. And then I went to work in a Georgian hotel. It was half very exclusive antiques, which I hadn't done before. And then the rest of the hotel was very modern. So I remember going into this room and thinking that table's not very nice, but it was worth about £5,000. So when you look at it, you can have all sorts of, it's not just a modern hotel, you can have antiques. So from there, I went to Hotel de Van. I was a head housekeeper for Harrogate. I don't know if anybody knows Hotel de Van, it's a boutique hotel. And I was very fortunate because I was the chairman of Yorkshire Housekeeping Association, and also I was deputy chair of the Housekeeping Association of Great Britain, and I also was on the International Executive Housekeeper of America. I used to go to America every year to the housekeeping conferences, which is amazing. Stayed in New Orleans, Las Vegas, Kentucky, Hawaii. So the world's your oyster when you're a housekeeper. Nashville, yes, went to Nashville, Kentucky, yeah. Amazing. And then also I've been very lucky enough to be presented to the Queen at Buckingham Palace, and in one of 3 housekeepers that were presented to the Queen at the Buckingham Palace, which was amazing. There's no photographs, so unfortunately I can't show you any because they wouldn't allow me to take any. But also I won a Catey in 2008 as a Best Housekeeper of Great Britain, which was amazing. And it opens all sorts of doors for you. It's an amazing occupation to have. And now I'm a retired housekeeper, so I'm just trying to cascade my knowledge down to young people who want to be a housekeeper. Thank you.
Thank you. Priscilla?
When I was your age, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and my parents wanted me to be a teacher, and I dreaded the idea of being a teacher. And I had to wait, I had to be 18 to go into teachers' college, so I said I was going to get a job, and I had a few jobs here and there, and then a neighbour said she had just opened the Hilton in Montreal, which was the largest hotel in the world at that time, and had 21 bars and restaurants. That no other operation to this day can even come close to it. And I had a job working in the food and beverage office. Didn't know very much about hotels in those days because, unlike you kids, we were not exposed to all of these things. And I just absolutely loved it. I bluffed my way through a lot of things. And the Hilton in Montreal was the training centre for the world of people coming to train after they had been to like Lausanne in Switzerland or any of the German hotel schools. And I said to my boss, I would like to do the training program. And he went, what? You're a girl. And I went, excuse me, well, what's the difference? He said, girls don't do training programs. I said, please. So he said, okay, fine, but you have to do your training, do the job from 9 to 5:30, and then from 5:30 onward, you can do your training program. So normally it would have taken a man to do a full day, a year. It took me 2.5 years to do it because I had to give up my weekends as well. Didn't get paid for that. And I eventually got a posting. I was made a coffee shop manageress. And we had a trainee executive housekeeper from the Virgin Isles, the American Virgin Isles, who said to me one evening, I'm looking for an assistant. I can't find an assistant. And I said, I'll go. And she went, you will? And I said, yes. So off I went to St. Thomas as her assistant, again in food and beverage. And then my boss was made general manager of the Martinique Hilton, and he called her and said, I need Priscilla to come and help out because we're really in a mess. So off I went to Martinique, and I was only supposed to be there a couple of months, but I ended up spending 2.5 years then. And then my boss said to me, you know, Pris, if you really want to travel, continue to travel, you have to go into housekeeping. And I thought, oh, please, housekeeping. Women with 25 keys. We didn't have key cards in those days. You had a key for every room kind of thing. And I just thought, oh, how boring. And then I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a chance. So they sent me off to Caracas for 3 months to do a training program. And I realized that it was very, very similar to F&B. And my first posting was back to the Virgin Isles, where we were closing a hotel. And closing a hotel is just as difficult as opening a hotel. And then I was sent to Quebec City to help open the Hilton in Quebec. And over the years, I opened hotels around the world for Hilton. So I'd been to the Middle East, I've been to the Caribbean, back in Canada, in the States. And it has been a fantastic career because you meet all kinds of people. You have royalty that come to visit. You have movie stars. You have, I met Mr. Nixon at one time. I met the Kennedy family. It opens the door, our industry opens the door to all kinds of things. And you are dealing with people that respect you for your jobs. And I wouldn't say it's the easiest job in the world, but it is certainly the most fascinating. I can't imagine doing anything else in my life. I don't even know what I would have done had I not just tumbled into the hotel industry. And recently my son got married and we took guests to Sushi Samba, which is one of the highest buildings in the world right now. And as I was going up in the elevator, I was thinking, when I was a kid, I was working part-time in the tallest building in Montreal, which was 737 feet above sea level. And here I am now in the tallest building in the world, right here in London. So there are all kinds of avenues in the industry. There's human resources that is also very interesting if you like people and you can cope with the ups and downs of problems that people have in their life. Because when you're working in our industry, you're not just, it's not a 9-to-5 job where you clock in and you're involved with your people. You're involved with their personal problems. You're involved with the happy part. When they get married, we're always happy for a wedding to take place because we participate. And then they have babies, and you're involved with their children, and you watch their children grow up. So it's a fascinating industry to be in. And I would certainly say go for it.
Thank you. Sam?
Thank you, Christoph. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm not actually a housekeeper, so I'm a bit of a fraud sitting in this panel. But I work for an organisation called Springboard, which is a charity that helps young, unemployed and disadvantaged people into careers within hospitality, leisure and tourism. And my role at Springboard is Business Relations Manager. So I work with around 48 different hospitality businesses across the UK, varies in sizes from star ratings from budget hotel brands such as Premier Inn, right through to 5-star luxury hotels as the Savoy and Dorchester. And one of the things we are very passionate about at Springboard is promoting careers in hospitality, but one of those areas, key areas for us, is housekeeping and accommodation management, and we run various different projects and programs to help people get a work experience or an opportunity to understand the industry much better. But my career history started off actually in the kitchen, didn't really like school, was dyslexic, so, well, I am dyslexic, I am dyslexic, so found education quite tough, but really enjoyed my work placement, which involved kitchen and management side of it for 2 weeks, so spent time in both sides of the operation. When I was 16, left school, got a job at an apprenticeship in the kitchen. After 2 years, decided I actually wasn't very good at cooking, so probably the kitchen route wasn't best for me. It was quite good with people, so I went into the management side of things and joined the Forte Hotel Group training management program, and actually was shipped to Boston in America, where I spent 6 months working in all various different departments within the big hotel in Boston in America, including housekeeping. And then came back to London, spent some time at the Grosvenor House Hotel in Park Lane, in conference and banqueting, so worked on things like the Brit Awards or television awards, things like that, big banqueting events, biggest ballroom in London at the Grosvenor House Hotel. And then from there went to work for an independent hotel where I was one of 3 managers, and I was 22 at that time, and was duty manager, running the hotel, running the food and beverage outlets, but very involved in housekeeping, because when you're a duty manager you need to know exactly how housekeeping works, because you need to make a Z bed up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You need to know exactly where everything is in housekeeping. So worked very closely with those departments back then. Then went into training and development, was an MVQ assessor for a couple of years, and then joined Springboard 12 years ago. So have a good insight into hospitality and a good insight into housekeeping, but also a very broad overview of the needs and the demands that the industry as a whole is looking for, especially within housekeeping and accommodation management. So that's me.
Thank you. Joanne?
Hi everyone, I'm Joanne. I'm not a housekeeper either, so frauds are all at the table. I'm the general manager at the Express here in Doncaster. I've been there back actually at that hotel for 2 years now. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career either, so I went to school, didn't like it very much. Enrolled actually for a hair and beauty course in college. 2 weeks before I was due to start, someone was like, oh, what about business admin? Kind of stumbled into it. I left college after 2 years and applied for every job under the sun. I ended up with a receptionist job in a little small hotel, you know, the old-fashioned ones where you go in and they're all underneath the staircase. That was me. And just completely fell in love with it. It was hard work, but I loved it. This shiny new hotel concept popped up called Holiday Inn Express. Applied for a job there as a duty manager and got it. And as Sam said, when you're in this industry, you don't just do one role, you have to experience all of it. So I fell in love actually with the Express brand, and I never left it. I've been in it now for so long, I don't know if I could survive in another hotel. But I've been Manchester for a couple of years, down in London for 7 years, Leeds for a few years, so pretty much up and down the country. I worked in Doncaster 2008 for a few years and then back 2 years ago. There's no doubt that this industry is hard, but the rewards are fantastic, and we're in this huge age now of social media. I mean, you all go on TripAdvisor and you use Facebook and Twitter, and boy, do people like to pick on you when something's wrong. So, you know, it is really important that you have a passion for this industry. Otherwise, I don't think you're going to last in it very long. But yeah, I've done it all: housekeeping, the kitchen, reception. And you're absolutely right. Someone arrives 4 a.m. in the morning, you need to put a bed up. It's just part and parcel of the industry, but I love it.
Thank you. Amanda?
Okay. Well, everybody here, I think, pretty much knows who I am. I trained at Doncaster College. I joined Doncaster College in 1986. I don't want to say that, it may sound really old. And part of the 2-year course that I did at college, we used to have to do housekeeping. And we all used to get on a little minibus, and we all used to go over to High Mountain every week for a lesson with the big machines, the big buffers, and we learned how to do all the floors and to do all of, you know, the making the beds and the general maintenance. And there were quite a few people that actually really enjoyed that side of it, you know, because again, we all went to college and we all wanted to be chefs. But actually, there was quite a few of us that left when we left college, did go into either conference and banqueting, front office, which then would include accommodation services. And although my career then took me down the chef path, you know, obviously when you work in a hotel, you are part of a family, and they become more of your family than home does, because you see them more than you do home. So, and you learn to support. You learn that in a hotel, or whether it's small or large, whichever area you're in, you're a support mechanism for each other, and one cannot function properly without the other. So even if you're in the kitchen, you know, if you don't have good relations and a good support network within front of office, whether or portering or housekeeping, you know, you can't do your job properly. So all the areas are really key, and that's been a common theme throughout my career, and even now in teaching, you know, whichever it is, we're all a team and we all work together and support each other. And they are also now like my family, because I see them more now than I see my family. But that's just the sort of career it is in hospitality. You know, you go into it and you have a passion for it, and you love it, and you don't mind the hours, you don't mind the fact that you work the holidays and everybody else is off, you know, because you love what you do and you love that industry, and you love that feeling of working as a family, because you all work together and you all socialise together. You know, and I think that's a key thing about the industry.
Thank you. I'm Christoph. I started my career in hospitality working for a youth hostel, and then did an apprenticeship in Germany. So that usually takes you 3 years. I did an apprenticeship within 2 years, and I worked in a very small hotel, 68 bedrooms, and I worked in all the different departments of that hotel. But my apprenticeship also had a focus on accounting, actually. After that, I joined the university, and I did a double degree program, so I did a bachelor and a master's degree at the same time in 3.5 years, and I studied in Germany and I studied in Melbourne, Australia. Part of that degree program was also an internship, so I did an internship in London, where I worked for a very nice hotel right in the centre of London. And I actually didn't work in an operations department. I made the decision that I wanted to have something more strategic, so I worked in their continuous improvement department. My degrees are in hospitality management and in economics. After my degrees and after my apprenticeship, I wanted to find a job in hospitality and couldn't find anything because nobody wanted to offer me a job because it was at the beginning of a recession. But then I got a phone call from somebody whom I worked with before and in London, and that person said, I'm going to open a hotel. I'm going to open a hotel in London. Do you want to join me? I said, yeah, sounds interesting. And that person said, yeah, I'm looking for somebody to run my housekeeping operation. I said, housekeeping, similar to what Priscilla said. Housekeeping, I'm not really interested. But then he actually said, it's a 1,019 bedroom hotel and it's a new opening, so maybe you want to think about it. And I said, actually, that sounds very, very interesting. So I went back to London and I joined this hotel, a 1,019 bedroom, and I was the assistant head housekeeper. So I had the responsibility for about 240 team members. And I was the assistant for about 7 or 8 months, and then was promoted to become the head housekeeper. So that was my first job after university, which was quite exciting. So I was running the housekeeping operation there for about 3 years, and then left the industry to go into education as a lecturer. So I was part of an opening team of a hotel school, was lecturing for about 6 months, and then was involved in a number of projects, and then became actually the vice principal of that school. When I was then running the academic operation for about 2 years. Then I wanted to go back into the industry, and I found a job with my current employer as quality assurance manager. So currently I'm looking after about 150 hotels all over the UK and make sure that the quality is there. And I was just recently promoted to also take over the health and safety aspect of the business, and I'm now quality assurance manager and health and safety director for that same company. While I'm doing all of that, I'm also running one of the biggest online forums for housekeeping, which is called hsknowledge.com, with over 6,000 members worldwide. So if you have any questions regarding housekeeping, go onto that website and ask your questions. There will be somebody there who can answer that. So that was me. Thank you very much to the panel. I think what I already took away from this is that we have a lot of experience sitting at this table. And I think we have experience in education and in housekeeping. And I think that will actually allow us to have a very interesting discussion. The panel discussion that we are going to start now is titled Housekeeping ? A career ? So I think that's the message that we want to get across to you. For the next about 20 minutes, I'm going to ask questions, and the panel, I would like to ask you to volunteer your answers, and then I'm going to open up to the floor, and you can answer ask some questions as well. So my very first question, whoever wants to answer it first, what's your definition of housekeeping? What is housekeeping for you?
Housekeeping is the heart of the hotel. If you don't have a good housekeeper, you don't have a good housekeeping team, you don't have a clean establishment, and bums in beds make money.
Can I just say that's exactly what I have here?
Yeah, and me.
Heart of the hotel.
The hub of the hotel.
Yeah, if the housekeeping
Absolutely.
side doesn't work, then no department is going to work. Rooms are the reason that people are coming to your hotel to stay in that bedroom, and they expect it to be clean.
And you can actually make 60% gross profit in rooms.
I'm not going to.
Well, it depends on the establishment you're in. But, all right, if you're going to go for the cheaper deals, then maybe not. But you can make 60% gross profit on a room, and you're not going to make that as far as food and beverage is concerned.
No.
So this is why the general managers should look after their housekeeping team. And there are more male housekeepers in the industry now than there ever used to be. So don't knock it totally, gentlemen.
And also the housekeeping department is involved with every single department. We supply the uniforms for everybody. If the chefs don't have uniforms, believe me, you hear about it. If the engineering people have a little tear in their shirt, we hear about it. So it's very important that you have a very, very good uniform individual that takes care of uniforms. You're also involved in the health and safety, because if a chef cuts his finger, he comes to housekeeping. We're like the mother of the hotel. And I was, by the way, like you, I was 24 when I became an executive housekeeper. So I was the youngest in the Hilton organization around the world. So you don't have to be old and luckily you don't carry keys anymore. You have a little key that gets you into rooms. But we are the heart of the hotel. Without housekeeping, they can't function. The hotels cannot function.
I think the only place that housekeepers don't clean is the kitchen.
Oh, yes.
Oh, some it depends. Some of the smaller hotels, housekeeping are involved in that
Does that
as
mean
well.
you should be cleaning my office? I
Sorry?
do that myself.
No, you should have housekeeping team.
We'll have to
There you
speak.
go, I've learned something new today.
We'll have to speak to the boss about that.
Can I just say that I wanted to be a chef, and when I just changed my mind when I actually went into the industry, it's an amazing industry, unbelievable department to work in. Like Priscilla says, you've got so many different departments you're involved with. When I first went to a hotel, there was a florist, and I was taught how to do flowers in the hotel, and I actually did flowers for Princess Margaret, which was a wonderful thrill. But even now I can do flowers, but it's an amazing job. Honestly, if anybody wants to go into it, just to try it and see what you think. The most important word is attention to detail. If you like things nicely done, everything in its own place, it's the job for you. It's an absolutely fantastic job. I was passionate about it. I joined the Housekeeping Association because I wanted to learn more. You network, you meet all sorts of people. I've known Priscilla for an awful long time, and I've met Angela from Birmingham, and I come from Leeds. And you meet people from all over the world. I was once talking a few months ago to somebody in London in a beautiful hotel, just newly opened hotel, and I was talking to this gentleman from Germany. And I said, I work with a lovely lady called Audrey in Hawaii. He said, I know Audrey. So it's just amazing that you know people from all over the world. It's just, and you can go anywhere in the world and do anything you want to do. If you put your mind to it, it's hard work, but if you're passionate about it, but I would suggest people just go into it to see what it's like yourself. You can go anywhere in the world, believe me, anywhere.
You can also, in many of the countries around, not Europe, I'm not sure about North America anymore, but certainly in the Middle East, Africa, as a housekeeper, you can actually live in the hotel, which is a bonus because, well, I never saved any money, but lots of my colleagues did save money. But this is really a bonus because you have your food and beverage, your laundry is done. I think when I left the hotel, the biggest disappointment was I had to go to the valet down the street and have my clothes cleaned, and it's really expensive. But this is a perk of being a housekeeper as well. There are lots of perks and a lot of interesting things that no 2 days in a row are the same. Absolutely none. So if you get easily bored, housekeeping is a job for you to get into.
And you can meet the most wonderful people, like Priscilla says. You meet people, film stars, queens, all sorts of people. It's amazing. People used to say to me, "Who have you met this week, Gina? Who have you seen this week?" And you can say all these wonderful people, and it's amazing. Film stars, singers, all sorts. It's really, really, really interesting. And if you work in London, in Scotland, anywhere in the world, it's always different. Each hotel's different, every company, and it's just so different. It's an amazing, if you want to do it, it's an amazing thing to try. I really would suggest that you just go into housekeeping just to try it, to see how you get on.
And also, when you're through the years, you meet people that you may have worked with. I have worked with people in Abu Dhabi, for instance, that are now in another part of the world, and we are very good friends, and we still meet up once a year. They come to London. I go to Egypt once a year. I go to the States where I've got colleagues that this is also a perk because then you don't have to pay for hotels. You get a lot of the hotel chains will certainly take care of hotel people.
So housekeeping is around since hotels are around in terms of making sure that they're clean and that the guests actually have a nice place to stay. So from when you think back at this at the start of your career, so has the face of housekeeping changed since then?
Definitely.
Definitely.
How?
Yes.
Absolutely have. Well, for cleaning, for instance, different types of chemicals, things have come on such a lot. Things like microfiber cleaning cloths. I introduced microfiber cleaning cloths into the clean. You might take it for granted that that's what you use, but the chemicals, because of the green policy, you have to think about what chemicals you're using to clean with, that you're not polluting the air. You must use the right chemical for each different thing you're wanting to clean. It's just a different way of cleaning things. Also costs, if you like costing things out and how much things cost, it's very, very important that you buy the best quality at the cheapest price so you can negotiate with people, suppliers. You meet suppliers and negotiate with them. It's really very interesting.
Christoph, I think from our point of view, where we see housekeeping has changed over the years, it's become a lot more professional, and that in the eyes of people see it as a profession rather than just falling into it as because they didn't really know what else they wanted to do. And the reason it's become a more professional part of our industry is because of what the panel have already touched on, is because that's where the money is made in hotels. And if you think basically what is our hotel and what is it there to do, it's there to sell sleep. And to be able to enable their hotel to sell sleep, you need a really good housekeeping department to be able to turn those rooms around quickly to the standards of whatever that hotel require, whether that's a 5-minute turnaround room or whether that be a 45-minute to turn that room around. But that is where the money is made in the industry. So the industry has seen the importance of housekeeping, and then so it's starting now to see the reinvestment in its people and its training, and the quality is needed every time. It's also become more professional because of you guys, because of the public. requiring a good clean room when you go and buy that sleep. If you don't have that good clean room, you're going to go on TripAdvisor, Twitter, Facebook, tell all your friends, don't go and stay in Hotel Joe down the road, because Hotel Joe down the road had bed bugs in it, and then you tell your network, that network tells the next network, and so it's just like a bad customer complaint, works exactly the same principles to it. So, to me as a ex-hotelier, if you like, and working with hoteliers, what hotels are there to do? They're there to sell a brilliant night's sleep, and they can only do that with a really strong housekeeping department. So in my eyes, I see the industry becoming a lot more professional in the way that it sees that part of its industry.
I think also as well, is that you can see that in education. And like I was saying, when I was at college and we did housekeeping as part of our training, and then that sort of disappeared off the radar, and now colleges are offering housekeeping as training again. So it's sort of come full circle now.
Can I just say another thing? Management skills is very, very important when you're running a department, because a housekeeper normally has the biggest department to run. And you have different people from all over the world coming to work with you, which is really interesting. They all have different ways of doing things and different types of people. And if you're good at managing people, then you can run a nice big team, and you can make that team your own. And you can build, I opened about 8 different hotels up, and you have to pick your own team as a housekeeper, and I think it's wonderful. There's people from all over the world, from different walks of life, but they all have to do one thing to make it nice and clean and all work together, which is quite challenging in itself, but it's very, very rewarding. I used to have team building, take staff out, to give them incentives. They used to have a raffle prize for them to make people feel that they're wanted and they want to come to work. And they were from all over the world. And one thing I used to do, which was I used to get them staff together, is always say good morning in different languages. So if you got somebody from Russia or Lithuania or Albania or Poland or Spain, I used to say good morning and thank you. And it's amazing what a nice smile they'd have when you said, oh, you can say good morning, or in Thai, that you say good morning. That's really, really important to run a team. Management is really important if you like people.
I think that very nicely leads me to the next question, because we have now looked back. So if we are looking at today's time, so what do you think is required from a very good housekeeper?
Patience.
A good communicator, and someone who smiles, because that makes the rest of the staff smile. And it takes less muscles to smile than it does to have a straight face. So let's smile, everybody.
It takes someone who's got to be organised as well. I mean, they've referred to running a huge team. Not only have you got to run a team of people, but you've got to get the best out of those people. You've got to support, encourage those people, whilst also delivering a promise to the guest that checks in that the room's going to be perfect as well. So it does definitely need someone who's organised and who has a passion for that as well, because we go back to the guest is king, and it's all over social media if not. So I mean, a highly organised person who has good people skills to be able to lead a team, because they've touched on the subject that it is sometimes very hard work, and it is. Our industry in general is very hard work. But if you've got somebody at the top of the tree who's encouraging you and supporting you, and knows exactly what it's like on the ground as well, then when your QE scores come through, so your quality scores, and someone writes something nice on TripAdvisor, it's very rewarding as well.
I would say lots of the skills in hospitality in general are required because it's a people business. And that comes from within you. So you've got to want that. You've got to want that hunger and that ability to learn and the willingness to learn. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this in a college, but qualifications can come after that. If you're sitting in front of an employer asking for a job, you could have all the qualifications in the world, but if you don't have that smile, that passion, that something inside you that just wants to do it and achieve, then you're not going to get that job. So lots of the HR people that I speak to, and lots of the housekeepers, the executive chefs out there, they say the same thing. Hire the smile, hire the personality, and then we'll train your talent. We all give you the qualifications, whether that's at college or a training provider, whatever it might be, or on the job training, all of that will come. You've got to have it from deep within inside you. And that's whether you're running 680 odd Premier Inn hotels around the country, or if you're running a bed and breakfast in your own building.
So, is there a career in housekeeping? What are the options?
Definitely, but it's always good to do some work experience. And not necessarily in one place, maybe several places to do the housekeeping side, because you'll get good and bad, and then you kind of make your own decision. But certainly, start at the bottom and work up. That's what I did.
Same as me. Yeah, you just got to give it a try, and you'll find out whether it's for you or not. I'd suggest some of you'll fall in love with it, some of you won't. But you know, that's the same for any industry and any job. But you've just got to give it a try.
I think in this day and age, everybody works hard. My son is in finance and he works very hard, but he doesn't have the fun that I've had in working hard. I feel very sorry for a lot of young people these days. And I'll go in one step further by saying, when I came to London, I found it very difficult. It was probably more difficult for me living in London than it was living in the Middle East or Africa. And I had a colleague that worked in another Hilton hotel, and she was constantly complaining about her night cleaners. Well, I didn't know what night cleaners were, because I always had my own people doing 24 hours of service. She had an outside contractor, and she complained and complained and complained. And I took a tour with her one day of her hotel, and her hotel was a 5-star plus hotel. And the back of the house was absolutely filthy. And I asked her how much she was paying for this service. And when she told me, I went back to my room in my hotel and I sat there and calculated how much money there was in this business. And I phoned her up the next day and said, would you, if I left Hilton and started my own company, would you give me that contract? And she said, what do you know about starting your own company? I said, well, we run a hotel. I think I can do the same thing. Luckily for me, her executive assistant manager had worked with me all through the Middle East and Africa, so he knew me and knew how hard I worked in opening hotels. So he said, okay, let's give Pris the opportunity. And at the time, they were paying a lot of money, and they cut me down by about £800 a week. And I said, fine, I'll do it for 6 months, and if I don't, at the end of 6 months, achieve what I think I can achieve, then you throw me out. If not, you put me up to the same amount of money. And my husband and I worked 24/7 starting this company. We were working our fingers to the bone. We left the house at 10 o'clock at night and didn't come back till 12 noon the next day. And we were very successful, but we worked really, really hard. We did the job of 3 people to save money. And over the years, we've accomplished a very, very successful business throughout the UK. So there are other steps that can be taken from this industry. There are lots of things that can be done. Be it a chef who works in a hotel, who can now run his own restaurant. Be a housekeeper that's very good with people that can go into HR and start her own company in HR. There's so many links to our industry and housekeeping. So it's there for you.
Can I also mention, that there's not just housekeeping in hotels. It's also halls of residence, hospitals. They may have a different title, but they still are part of a team that have to deal with the cleaning side.
Hospitals are really, really looking for very good housekeepers.
If you just look at the size of hospitality and the opportunities, I mean, your question was, is there a career in housekeeping, and if so, what could that look like? You remember you're part of an industry that's the 4th largest employer in the UK. If you just think about how many people that is, that's around 2.7 million people in hospitality, and you're entering that industry at the very start of it, and a very exciting time for hospitality. Lots of industries are going over into an automated world. Hospitality will still need people at its very heart, and all the prediction growths by 2020 say that we're going to need an extra 300,000 new recruits into hospitality. And where are these new recruits coming from? They're coming from here in Great Britain, from the UK. So we need to attract those people to come and join our industry. So where can your career take you, in whether that's hospitality in general or specifically in housekeeping? That's up to you. You've all heard from the panel how very varied our careers have been. Your career can be just as varied, just as exciting, or it can be very straight and very structured. What hospitality will give you is variable skills. So you can learn something really, really valuable here at college and take that into many different industries around the world. And that's why people like the banking industry or retail are crying out for people with those hospitality skills, because they realise that you have got transferable skills. But we want you obviously to stay within hospitality and make your career here. So out of 300,000, there's how many of you here? 40? 300,000 new jobs in the next 10 years.
So if I ask the panel about one career advice that you want to give your audience today, what would that be? Should we start with you, Angela?
Go for it.
You have to try it to see if it suits you, but you have to try it. To go in there, you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised.
And
Very
work at it. Don't always, maybe the first time it's not as good. Don't just throw it out of the basket altogether. Go again, try somewhere else. And then all of a sudden, whoosh.
The world's your oyster. Believe me, it is. The world is your oyster.
You have to like people, obviously. Be at both sides of the fence, because you've got the guess that it's yes, madam, no, madam, 3 bags full, madam. But you also have to like your staff, and you have to be good to your staff, because they're very hardworking for you. If you don't have that manner of treating your people with love and tenderness, you won't get anything. I've worked with people that this was something that shocked me as I went around the world, where there's some of the housekeepers were monsters, and I used to think, my God, I can't be like that. And I had people that would, when we had a bad day, or when I first came to London, there were strikes, tube strikes, train strikes, bus strikes, and I didn't realise how far people came from outside London to work in London. I thought everybody lived in London, and London was small, but I had an assistant that, because the girl was 15 minutes late, she was screaming at her and telling her to go home. I said, we don't have any people. Why are you sending her home? I said, do you want to clean 25 rooms today? And she went, no. I said, so why are you sending her home? But she had worked in a hotel that it was like very, very structured and very, there was no, well, she never spoke, and she came as my assistant, and her executive housekeeper never spoke to her assistants. The housekeeper was up there, and all the rest of the staff were down there. You can't do that, and especially not in this day and age. So you've got to like people.
I totally agree on work experience. Something we're very passionate about at Springboard is making sure that every work experience placement is a good quality, worthwhile placement, and we can certainly help you find those placements. And definitely try before you buy. You wouldn't go and buy a new pair of trainers without trying them on before. Don't go into a career without trying before you do that. Exactly the same. But my one piece of careers advice for you is ask, ask, ask. If you don't ask the questions, don't ask and find out the information, and don't ask where you're going to go next, you'll still be sitting here 10 years' time listening to us old fuddy-duddies talking about what great jobs we've got.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
For me, it's again the experience. Just experience everything that you can. I mean, in our industry, it's vast. Whether it be housekeeping or reception, it's all good experience. It teaches you something. And for me, it's very much about know the job that you're asking of your team, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that my team do respect me and will get behind me, purely because I've been there, done that job, and that gives me the best experience to be able to encourage them and support them and take their careers forward as well, whether it be housekeeping or the executive housekeeper or kitchen, etc. Is just experience everything that you can in all parts of the industry.
A lot of the hotel chains in London, or I think in the country, do give you opportunities to go in and try a training program, so that you can decide which part of the industry you would be interested in working in. There's a lot. If you wrote to companies, off the top of my head, I can't remember how many companies do, but they are an awful lot of them that do that today. So they're helping. They need the people.
Your career advice, Amanda?
I would say work hard. Don't be afraid to take risks. Go out of your comfort zone to do something that you didn't think you were able to do or you never thought you would do. But also, I think is key is enjoy every minute of the ride.
Absolutely.
Because it will be a fantastic ride if you put the work in.
Thank you. I would like to open up the questions to the floor. So if you have any questions that you want to ask the panel, this is your opportunity. Are there any questions from anyone?
Yes.
Which hotel training programme did you run? I think you were saying in your introduction.
I did an apprenticeship in Germany before I studied, and that was a family-run hotel. And in Germany, there's an apprenticeship system that you actually sign up to, and then you go through that. It wasn't a particular hotel chain, but in the UK, as Priscilla pointed out earlier, there are a lot of hotel companies who are helping young people to start a career, and probably the person that you want to talk to is Sam.
Yes. So everyone, lots of big organisations now run apprenticeships in housekeeping and accommodation management. Off the top of my head, people like Premier Inn, Hilton Hotels, Marriott, IHG,
Holiday
Inns, they will all run apprenticeships, and will often run graduate programs as well, to take people. But not just the big boys, not just the big ones, but some of the smaller, more boutique hotels like Malmaison and Hotel de Van. There's you only have to open up a hotel directory and they'll all be offering them. They need you. That's why they're offering them. When we say the world is your oyster, you are in the best position because there are more vacancies than there are people applying for them. So you've got the choice.
Any more questions? Over to you.
It sounds like a really good opportunity with like how you can travel all over the world and stuff like that, but where do children and families actually fit into it?
What do you mean, where do children and families?
Because like I've got a daughter and I don't know how I'd like travel and how it'd affect her.
How old is your daughter?
She's 3 at the minute.
Okay, she's 3. You could start your career in London. She's not going to be 3 forever.
No.
And you'd be surprised. I had an opportunity when my son. Well, I had 2 opportunities. I was asked to go to work to do the opening for Disney, and my son at the time was 8, and I was married, and I wanted to do this for my own. I love Disney. I could go to Disney every day. And my husband said, "Are you crazy?" And the man that was interviewing me, I was a telephone interview, which I hate, said, "What are you going to do with your son?" And I said, "Well, I come from Quebec, and I speak French, and I want my son to speak French, so this will be a very good opportunity for him." So this went on back and forth, back and forth. And my husband said, "There's no way that you are going to live in France with my son." He said, "You are staying here." So there are opportunities. A lot of... It depends on you obviously are a single mum.
I'm a partner.
Okay. But there are ways of getting around it.
There definitely are. I mean, I have a 2-year-old boy, and obviously don't get me wrong, you're just a little bit younger than me, not by much. But you know what, yeah, Priscilla's right, it's not going to be 3 forever, and you know, set the grounds of your career now and get that experience now, so that when your little one's at school, or you know, leaving school, then you've got the basis of a good career. And you know, yeah, maybe you might not want to go down to London now that he's 3, but you know what, that's not to say you might not want to do that in 5, 6, 10 years time. You know, set the basis of a good career now. And I think the industry maybe is a bit, oh, you can't go in when you've got children and no one's flexible, and that's just not true.
No, I think I would like to add to that.
It's not
So
true anymore.
I actually have a 10-month-old boy, and I actually believe that exactly hospitality is the right industry to be in, because we are working 24/7, but that gives you the flexibility to work around childcare arrangements and all of that. And as Sam pointed out earlier, it's there's a demand for good people, so I'm pretty sure that employers will go out of their way to make. If you show that you're good in what you're doing, they will go out of their way to make it happen for you.
Not just London.
No.
Yeah.
Sometimes they will even offer you accommodation. So that you've got that, maybe a cottage or something like that. It depends on where you actually go for the job.
And I think that also, that if you do, I think while they're young as well, they adapt to it.
Yes.
And it sort of becomes the norm. Do you know what I mean? So they get used to sort of maybe being in a different place.
The qualities you have as a mum is the qualities we need in hospitality.
In the industry.
Yeah, very true.
But
So you are 10 steps ahead of the next person behind you.
If you ask your question, hello?
Do you know when you have this job though, you're not really at home all the time, are you? You don't
of course you are. You have a life. You do have a life.
You said like, you know when you're housekeeping and stuff, that's sort of like, you get used to that being in your home as well, don't you? So do you still feel like you have a home to go to?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
You've got 2
You don't
homes
go
then.
there every night, do you? You don't go back to your home every night.
Yeah. Well, it depends if you.
That's up to you. When I went up to Leeds and down to London, I commuted some of the time, I lived in some of the time, but you know, I mean, they've all said it over and over again, you get such a family environment, whether it be in a hotel or aircrew or whatever part of this industry, you are all a team, and you will find that probably you might actually like to spend more time with the work people rather than go home. But if you want to go home, you know, you don't, maybe we've scared you and it's 24/7 and you're always there, but you know, if you don't choose it to be like that, it doesn't have to be like that.
If you're organised, you're not in the hotel 24/7. Believe me.
It doesn't have to.
I'm not a morning person. Every general manager I ever worked in, because I knew that lots of the housekeepers, the older housekeepers, you were in the hotel at 6 o'clock in the morning and were there till 8 o'clock at night. And I said to every general manager that offered me a job as a housekeeper, I'm not a morning person. I do not think that I've got to be in that hotel at 6 o'clock. There is nothing to do at 6 o'clock in the morning. They don't even have staff at 6 o'clock in the morning. Why am I looking at 4 walls all by myself? So I would be there by 9 o'clock, because the guests don't need you in the morning, providing obviously that you have a good stable staffing. It was easier for me to be around in the evening, because that's when people come back to their rooms and they have problems. Their laundry isn't there, this isn't there, that isn't there. And very often I would go and pick up my son from school and bring him back to the hotel and put him in my office to do his homework while I was doing whatever I had to do. And general managers are very good. Well, 99% I think of general managers are very good in that respect.
Let me just tell you one thing. If you find a job you love, you'll never work a day again. So this industry, you work hard, and God damn it, you play hard as well.
Very.
And you know, you see these ladies on a night out. Whoa!
No details, please. I'm actually conscious of time, so thank you very much for asking your questions. If there are any more questions, please feel free to come to us and ask us after the panel discussion. But I wanted to take the opportunity to very briefly summarize what I heard. So I heard there are a lot of travel opportunities. You can see the world when you're working in housekeeping. There are a lot of career opportunities, from starting with cleaning rooms to actually running your own business. I think what I heard, which came out very loud and clear, was you meet a lot of different people. You build up a great network, and actually that network is more than a network. It's a family that you actually have. there's some money that you can earn in this business, and there are a lot of benefits that come with working in hospitality. In terms of key skills and knowledge, I think what came out clearly is man management, time management, organizational skills in order to get that done, and the very important attention to detail, which not only applies to housekeeping from my point of view, that applies to any job in hospitality. I think the last two things that I wrote down was it's a growing industry, so there will be jobs available. So deciding to study hospitality or hotel management or tourism or business actually is a very smart choice, because there will be jobs available if you're good. And the very last thing that I wrote down, and I think that everybody mentioned it on the panel, it's have fun along the way, because it's a very great it's a great industry to work in. So I think it was a very interesting panel discussion. Thank you very much to all panel members, and I'll leave it to you to close the session.
Okay, thank you everybody. I'd like to also say thank you to everybody for coming. And I'd like to say thank you to the audience, to our students for coming along, listening and asking questions. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.